Hello, Motorrad World fans, and welcome to this special live broadcast we've got tonight with a new special guest. We're going to be talking Isle of Man TT 2024 with the man that was right at the heart of the action, Greg Moloney, the voice of choice. Greg, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Rob, it's an absolute honor and privilege as always, buddy. The first thing I'm going to say is a massive thanks to you, Motorrad World. The opportunity I got to get into the media center, do what I needed to do, got a few bits and pieces that were over and above the call of duty, as you and I discussed off air. But I think the bottom line is that you are starting to become noticed in the MotoGP and World Superbike paddocks, and people are calling you in. As you know, you got called in by Dorna because you were doing things that you weren't allowed to do, and then they said, no, well, maybe this influencer is not a bad thing to have. I'm hoping the same thing happened, with me being at Isle of Man and the opportunity that you gave me as part of your team. But it was a tough one, and it was an eye opener compared to last time because with all the rights and the TV aspects and the TT Plus and this and that, it made things a bit more difficult than what it was in 2018 when you and I were basically that was it. You could take whatever you wanted to and say, right, no, I want to do this, and they could say, go, no, you can't. And then I eventually just phoned you and said, I'm going to do it, and if we get into trouble, then I'll just apologize.
Yeah, I think it's they're taking a page out of Dorna's book. Dorna have kind of closed the doors on everyone else, and it's very much we own the broadcast rights. Like if you're walking around MotoGP and they hear your cell phone ring is the sound of a MotoGP bike, that's copyright. That we own the right to, and it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth, as we were talking off air before we came live on air. But you're still, even with all those things, you're right in the heart of the action. You get to experience a little bit more than what the average person does. But as you said, we went there in 2017 or 2018 when we went last time, and you didn't actually need any pass. You could go wherever you wanted to. You could walk around the paddock. You could almost stand on the start line. It just seems like, obviously, it's the TT. It's a big thing. Isle of Man have taken it on themselves now. So, it's a little bit frustrating that you were handcuffed in many ways, but you still got some great in-depth footage, some great interviews with riders. Your coverage on AJ was spectacular. So, hence why we've got you on the show. We're really going to pick it apart and try and delve into the eyes and what happened with Greg Moloney for 2 weeks. Just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks on the island.
2 weeks.
It was very up and down 2 weeks. So let's kick it off. First of all, hello to everyone that's joining in here: Dick Crosby, Chris Williams, Luca Jefferson, Dave McBain, Godfrey Rademeyer, Superfly Racing ZA. Everyone's already tuning in. My first question to you, Greg, is how far did your 500 ZA round get you?
You saw me do a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek post about the food. I was on quite a tight budget, Rob. I was very fortunate to be given the gift for my 50th birthday, which hasn't even arrived yet. So Sam and my mom-in-law basically jumped in and said, well, we saw what you did last year, sitting with this behind me and a green screen, telling people I was actually at the TT. But of course, we were playing a little bit of smoke and mirrors there. But to be on the island, it makes it such a massive difference to your ability to pull those kind of interviews and stories that come through. Budget wise, I think if anybody's watching and anybody wants to go and do this, it's certainly the top of the list of any motorcycle fans' dreams of a bucket list. You can do MotoGP, you can do World Superbikes, you can go to endurance championship events, you can go to motocross world championships, etc. But the bottom line here is these are the last of the gladiators, in my opinion, and they are the epitome of a motorcycle racer, because the danger factor, the fear factor, all the other bits and pieces that come in at TT is about 1,000% more than anywhere else in the world that you race a motorbike. Saying that, to get there is, from a South African point of view, is quite a hefty a bill. You were chatting off air, and I said to you, the tongue-in-cheek one I did with KFC. KFC in South Africa have got a family meal at the moment that's $150. It's got 7 pieces of chicken. It's got 2 mash and gravy. It's got 3 nuggets. It's got 3 wings, and it's got a big packet of chips. If I add a 2-liter Coke to that as well, it'll come to about 180 Rand. I bought the kiddies meal, on the first day at the grandstand, which is the bottom of a hamburger box, not the whole hamburger box, just the bottom piece, with chips, 4 nuggets, and a can of 7-Up. And that was 215 Rand. So it just shows you that, our money is not great in terms of the Rand pound interchange. It's not good. So I was on £13.50 a day. That was my budget. I made it by the skin of my teeth. I literally walked out of Manchester Airport with my last set of pounds, and I bought the kids a couple of chocolates. And when I walked into the foreign exchange to do all my foreign exchange for the trip, I still had the £1 coin that I took back from Isle of Man in 2018 when you and I were there, yes, in my wallet.
Yeah.
I had to use that during the trip, unfortunately, at one point, because I didn't have enough for the bus fare. So I took that out and I used it. And when I walked onto the plane to go to Dubai, I had 50p in the wallet as I left the UK. So just shows you, at £13.50 a day, times the 17 days I was there, just shows you it's not an easy thing to get through. But hey, we made it. And to be there, I have to. My mom said to me last year, wouldn't it be easier to be there? Wouldn't you get better experience, etc.? No doubt about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a different world when you're in the paddock. I mentioned it a couple of times when I talk MotoGP. I talk MotoGP. I watch MotoGP now, even if it's on screen, but I watch it in a whole different way. There's things that I look for. When a rider says something or someone says something, I can relate to it more because I know which angle he's coming from. There's so much more you can take from when you've been right at the heart of it, and you can really pick it apart. So it was great that you were there for us. As I said, you got some great coverage all over your social media channels, which you shared on our channels. It was a surprising TT in many ways. It was up and down with the weather, as expected. But it was a surprise in many ways with the results. Now, before the TT even started, there was that picture of Davy Todd, elbow down. At that one point, and I still put it on our Motor Rider World page, and I said, Davy Todd looks like the man to beat for me. He's had a great start to the year in BSB. He's loving life. He raced Macau. He's doing all this racing. He's kind of doing what Peter Hickman was doing a couple of years ago, but he really looked like a confident rider. Whereas on the other hand, Peter Hickman came into this TT damaged goods in many ways. He had 2 big crashes in the BSB rounds leading up to it. He even didn't race the last BSB at Donington because of the injury, saving himself for the Isle of Man. I mean, in terms of big surprises, what were the big surprises that you took away, and what are the big things that you could take away that we didn't see on camera behind the scenes that very much you had to be at the TT to kind of grasp?
So I'll start with Davy Todd. The pic I think you put up was at the bungalow, where he had his elbow down on the tarmac and sort of just missed the curbing there. And I have to agree. He was certainly a firm favourite coming into the TT because of all the success he'd had in BSB, and also the change of team. He'd been with Paget's Malenko by Paget's Honda last year, and he had. It was an absolute nightmare. Every time he climbed on the bike, he looked like he had the pace. He found the pace, and then the chain came off, or the engine died, or the tire blew. Remember there was a big issue with that tire. So he certainly was a firm favourite in terms of possibly 4 riders, I would say. Michael is always going to be a big factor due to the fact that he had, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a few minutes' time. So I'm not going to go and delve into that too much. But Michael has always been a massive factor at TT, and always will be, in my opinion, until he decides to hang up that arrow.
Absolutely.
But Hickman coming in with an injury, one of my very first interviews was with Pete. And I've got to say, even with our hands tied like we were, it was a lot, and it's one of the surprises that you want me to talk about. It was a lot more difficult to get to those riders than what we found in 2018, Rob. You recall when Peter Hickman broke the record, and I was sitting next to Steve Parrish and Cam O'Donnell. They were doing the BBC thing right next to me in the media center. It wasn't even in a studio. They had like cans and stuff on, and they were talking. And I kept tapping Parrish saying, listen, this lap is a 1:37 lap. He's touted for it. I can see it from what the timing is going to come through. When he got to Governors that year and he caught those 2 back markers, it was the reason why he fell back and only just broke the record. In my opinion, if he hadn't caught those two backmarkers in Governors, he would have done the 137 in 2018. And we'd be talking about a different story right now. But anyway, Pete, Dean Harrison, Michael Dunlop, Josh Brooks, all the sort of BSB style riders were so difficult to get to because it's become, because of the whole media change up and TT Plus taking the rights and ITV taking the rights for the TV, it's become almost MotoGP-esque, but you've got to get an invite into the VIP area to chat to the rider, or you've got to wait for him to come out. Now, you and I both know you don't wait in the main alleyway where everybody's walking past. Those riders make their way in between the trucks and in between the trailers and the tents in between those main alleyways. And that's where I caught most of those guys that I did interviews with. So they were a little bit aloof and not as easily and readily available as what they were. As I said, your previous magazine that we're not going to mention, but let's put it as Motor Rider World. I had my cap on when I did the interview with Pete at the end of the day, after he'd broken the lap record.
Yeah, we put it on.
And he was available. I could get to him. I could physically touch and hold and feel and do the interview with him. I got the Motor Rider World cap on his wreath on the bike and took a photo with it. He put your cap on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This time, but they just disappear. They go into VIP and you never see them. Thank God I went down to a couple of the prize givings and I stood on the side in the Monster Park where they could have cordoned the riders off. And as they called them up, of course, all the riders go up and get their trophies and their replicas and stuff. That's where I got a lot of information from the riders because that's the only time that you can actually get to them. You know, it was so much more difficult than what it was in 2018 where the riders were accessible. I mean, I never spoke to Dean Harrison the entire time I was at TT. In 2018, I was having tea with him in his motorhome. You know what I'm saying? With his wife. I saw his wife and we chatted, but I never got a chance to even sit with the guy and have 2 minutes with him. And when I asked the Honda PR guy, can I get a chance to have a chat with either Dean or John McGuinness? No, sorry, we don't have time today. It's become a whole different ball game in terms of the PR marketing / rider MotoGP style rider VIP look and feel. They are now celebrities. They are now they've always been world-class athletes, but they're now being put into, I think, a different look and feel to what we had when it was a lot more easy to get to. You know what I'm saying?
I know, and it's a pity because one of my big highlights of the TT was that fact that it was so much more fan-friendly. You know, that's what I love about World Superbikes now. I went to World Superbike Donington last year, proudly had my media badge, which I thought, you know, this is MotoGP. I'm going to, you know, get to all these accessible areas no one else is going to get. And World Superbike have done the opposite in a way. Only place that I could get with my media pass last year in World Superbikes that the general public couldn't was actually into the media center, where the riders were only there for a couple of minutes and they left to the public.
Yeah.
And so you could you had a table to put your laptop in that and a free water. Yay. But access to the riders were, you know, what I had with my pass was the same as the public. And that's what I loved about, you know, Isle of Man. You could just walk through the paddock with your phone. I remember we were walking and there was Peter Hickman fixing his bike and, you know, hello, Peter. Then you would walk and there's Josh Brooks standing in the queue getting his ice cream. Hey, you know, you were just part of the whole show. And from what you're saying is, okay, well, here's the show. You stand outside there and we'll maybe feed you some crumbs. But if there are no crumbs, you must make do. And
to add to that, I mean, you literally, because there were three echelons of media. You had the host media, which of course was the TT Plus guys and certain photographers and certain social media influencers that were given host media, which means they could go anywhere at any time. Then you had Media Plus, and there was a big debacle. Hey, it was a huge debacle. Like I promise you, the media center was kind of like you could draw a line down the middle like a United City game. Right? It was that bad. You know, you had the host media guys who were there. And you had the normal photographers and media that would cover the TT and have covered the TT for the last 10, 12 years. And they were a little bit sort of upset and irate about the fact that when they got to, give you an example, Bungalow, there was a host media section cordoned off for host media only. And that's the shot that you saw, that you've used of Davey with the elbow down. The other TT Plus guys are on the other side of the road, and they're getting a reverse angle or the rider coming straight at them. That's the only shot they've got. And if there's two people in that box at one time with those massive lenses, you're stuffed. You can't track, you can't zone. And remember, you've only got 10 seconds as the guy comes past you to get that shot. If you don't get it in that 10 seconds, it's another 25 minutes before he comes back again, if he comes back again.
Yeah.
You know? So there was a lot of, and I don't want to get into the negativity of it, but you spoke about it, and you speak about getting into the media center and the riders come to the media center. Not one rider came into the media center.
Really? Eh?
The media were taken outside to a media pen, and you had to be invited to that media pen to go and do one or two questions that you could ask the riders then and there. You couldn't get to the post-race paddock where they did all the interviews with TT Plus. No one was allowed in there. No one other than host media. So it was a little bit more difficult to sort of get the information that we needed. However, with the experience that both you and I have had, and as I said to you, not doing the normal public routine of walking the main alleyways and looking for the riders and hoping they come out so you can quickly grab an interview or grab an autograph like the public were asking for. That's where I found everybody, and that's where I found the sort of the Josh Brooks of the world and the Nathan Harrison. Nathan Harrison was superb. He really was, and accessible as well. Very, very nice guy to sort of get to. But it made it a little bit more difficult to sort of find those nitty gritty bits and pieces. Like I wanted to chat to Michael after the Arai incident, and I said to him at the end of this was at the senior TT prize giving. It was the first time I got to speak to Michael, and he said to me, "Why didn't you come to the truck?" I said, "Mike, I can't get to you. They won't let me in." I know Michael well because in 2018 when we met him there, and then of course dealing with AJ and then the loaning of the leathers and coming to South Africa, and I've spent some time with him. So it's not that he doesn't know me, and it's the same with you. Like when you go to MotoGP, the riders have now sort of got a bit of a rapport with you, like we've had with the riders all our lives in South Africa. But it takes a while to build that rapport. And like Hickman only came up to me at the end of the seniors as well, because he didn't make the prize giving because he was stuck up at Ginger Hall where he crashed, and they wouldn't let him go. So he got pissed and he didn't even make it back to the prize giving. But when he eventually got back in the pit lane just before I left, he came up afterwards and he actually apologized and said, I didn't recognize you. And I only realized now, because remember when we were there, it was the previous magazine. So he only recognized that the fact that we were the South African team and said, "Oh, I should have given you more time. Apologies, and maybe I was a bit rude." And he was exceptionally rude when I asked for that interview. But that's how he's been briefed. They are not allowed to talk to anybody other than TT Plus. So when and my brief was that I could do those interviews as long as I was in the paddock, which is what I tried to do. But listen. Let's not dwell on the tough side of the media world. But you know what, Rob? To be honest with you, and I hope no one takes offense here in terms of the conversation we're having here that's watching, because I know they're all fans and they want to hear about the racing side. But this just goes to show you and goes to show everybody watching. And I hope that, as I said, when I say this, no one goes and says, "Oh, you guys are living the dream." Yes, we are. We certainly are. And I couldn't have done this without you guys and without you and your brother and the opportunity that you gave me to have the Motor Rider World badge. But it just shows you how difficult it is to break into that world.
Yeah, Greg, we can go on about it for days, to be honest, but it is what it is. I still have that feeling, going to a MotoGP race, that it's very much, and I've said it a load of times, there's the cream of the crop, and you guys must just feed on the specks and the crumbs that come out there. But anyway, at least we get to experience these things. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Talking about Peter Hickman, let's focus on him for a second. He's been Mr. TT, King of the Mountain, for so long. I don't know what the feeling was there at the actual TT, but certainly going into this TT with the crashes, not having a great BSB here, to me, he wasn't the man to beat. He was always the man to beat because he's last year's champion. But I don't know, the flavor that's Peter Hickman just seemed to have died off. There wasn't as much spotlight on him. What was his kind of persona, and what was the feeling of Peter Hickman, dominating there in the paddock? He
was very much persona non grata, hardly seen, hardly heard. I can tell you right now, from what I saw in his preparation when I was on the start line and watched how he sort of got ready for a race, you can see when a rider is good to go. There were a few occasions where I went, this doesn't look like Hickey, like I know him. Like I know he can climb on a motorcycle and drill anybody around that track. The only time I saw that was for the senior. And it's why he was going so well in the senior. I think whatever happened, something clicked over those 2 days, the one day that we had off and the 3 races in a row. Something clicked in that time period. And that's when he came into his own. And it was the first time that we actually saw Hickey, as opposed to Peter Hickman just getting through the day and let's do the 600s. Let's do, he had a busy schedule. He was one of the most busy riders of the week. He was involved. He rode every single race, same as what AJ did, same with a couple other guys. But there were a few guys that sort of specialized in certain areas, So, yeah, I think, to be honest with you, he podiumed. He was there or thereabouts. He took the one win. But, yeah, I wasn't the same guy. I have to agree with you in terms of that. There was certainly a little lackluster in Peter Hickman this year. And I think it was mainly due to the fact that he downplayed that injury a lot more than what he actually wanted, I think. I think the injury certainly affected him on the smaller bikes where you got to ride a bit harder. On the big bike, he could sort of rely on the power. And I think with the last one where he crashed, he admitted in his own interview afterwards, he said, he wasn't pushing hard, and then he started to push hard, and then he pushed too hard and went into Ginger Hall way too hot. Thank goodness it wasn't any worse than what it was, and he picked up and walked away, because it's about 180k an hour left-hander he went through there. And it's, the front wheel washed. And if that goes 50 meters further up the road, you're in a brick wall, and 50 meters further back, you're in Ginger Hall. So yeah, I don't know. But he wasn't the Peter Hickman that I saw in 2018. But as I said, when I eventually got to chat to him and he realized who I was, at that stage it was too late. So when I said to him, what can you take away from TT? Is it good, bad, ugly? He says no, it wasn't his best. He's going to come back rocking for next time. It was great to see what he did with Swan Racing and to get them back into the grid again. They've been absent, I think, for 12 years now. So to have House of Swan back on, and those very significant yellow, red, and green colors was really, really awesome to see. But when I talk about that, that was the twin, and he didn't really perform on it. The Trooper Triumph, I thought was going to be a beast, and it was nowhere. He kind of just ticked them off and did the job and got to the end and said, okay, well, if I podium, I podium. If I don't. There was no real, what's the word? Emphasis being put into his racing, I would say. It's maybe a good way of putting it. He just got the job done. But I think that was because of the injury. And he didn't want to sort of chance anything more or possibly, have that injury do something worse, which can happen at TT, as we know.
Yeah, I see he also came back to the weekend's BSB round at Knockhill, and he didn't even make the Q1 or the Q2 session. He didn't even get through. So there's something not right. And I think those 2 big crashes did put him off for the TT. And I could just see and feel that it wasn't the same Peter Hickman that we've seen in years gone by. Michael Dunlop, it was a big TT for Dunlop. There was that carrot dangling in front of him of breaking, another record. You were talking about, Peter Hickman on the Triumph. Michael Dunlop rocked up with a Triumph Daytona 765, did a lap on it, quickly scrapped it, climbed on his R6 and went on to dominate the 600s on the R6. So clearly the R6 machine was still there, but another fantastic TT from Michael Dunlop. We all saw and know what happened there, but the big talking point. Now tell us, it was big news for us on the outside, this video of him stopping and putting his visor. I mean, what did his tent blow up? Did the heads roll? What was the atmosphere like when that happened then?
Yeah, he had to tread very lightly. You can see in the background, I put that out on purpose just to show you. The guys at Arai were celebrating 40 years at the TT. So it was a huge milestone for Arai helmets. And of course, the big boss man was there. So Aki was in the house, and he was sitting there going, the bottom line here is that with 40 years celebrations happening with Arai, what could be the worst thing that could happen? Their number one rider's helmet visor has an issue. You can't ask for something worse than that to happen. So the PR around that was pretty difficult, because you had to sort of take into account that, this is the number one rider. He was on his way by miles. He had a 35-second lead when he came into the pit lane. 2 laps to go. No one's going to even touch him, because they weren't even able to run the same times as what he was doing at that stage, Rob. So I chatted to Strutter afterwards. I mean, I chatted to Strutter the whole week leading up to it, because we did all the 40th anniversary stuff and all the bits and pieces we did with Arab leading up to it. But he literally said, you know what, I've got to take that visor off. I put the visor back on. I clip the helmet thing in, and off we go. It's a simple story. Mine's the old one, but the new one is literally a 10-second visor change. If you do everything right.
If you do it right, yeah.
It's a 10-second thing. So, yeah, it happened. Shit happened. And the bottom line there was, it just shows you, and it showed me, and it proved to me when I talk about these riders compared to the likes of and I want to tread lightly here when I say names, because I know you've got a couple of fans out there that got firm favorites, but the likes of an Alicia Spargo, the likes of a Max Biaggi in his worst time, the likes of Noriyuki Haga, the likes of Pier Francesco Chili, who would throw their toys out the cot, throw the bike to the side, chuck their helmets, walk away. I'm never riding again. And that was it. Never once did they even think, unlike our two boys, and maybe one or two other characters in the MotoGP paddock right now, that maybe an Acosta is a good example. Zarco is a good example. Where when the bike crashes, the first thing they do is run there to pick it up and say, can we carry on or not?
Yes.
Okay, if they can't, I mean, those things break a lot worse than what a superbike will do. But a superbike on a road track gets disintegrated. When stuff like an Arai clip comes off, to have the mental capability to think to yourself, you know what, I can stop here, take my gloves off, undo the helmet, take it off, look what the problem is, fix the problem, put it back on, turn the bike on before I put my gloves on, and go. And yes, I lose 55 seconds, which I'm not going to be able to gain and make up in 2 laps around the TT course, unless something else happens, which can happen, Rob. That's what I was blown away about. I thought to myself, Mike, what are you even going for? You're not going to be able to do this. And I thought, you know what? Herein lies the testimony of these riders and how good they actually are compared to everybody else around the world. They will not give up until that fat lady sings, and he proved the point to everybody that day, because the last lap, he set the lap record. So he would have blitzed it and taken the 27th victory in the Superbikes had that thing not gone wrong. But hey, it happened. So now you're going to make another plan. So what does he do? He goes and climbs on a pattern and destroys them, but literally destroys them without even, there was not even a bike in the same league as him on that race. So yeah, there was an aftermath, as you can expect. It was handled very well, I've got to say, from a PR point of view, from Arai's point of view, because it could have got a lot worse. It could have got a lot nastier. You know what Michael's like. He's very hot-headed Northern Irishman. So he threw his toys and didn't want to speak to anybody for about a day. And thank God we had that rest day, because it certainly helped him in terms of his gathering his thoughts and getting back into the race mode. But I saw a post, actually, I think it was yesterday or the day before, from Strato, and he just said, after a lot of kissing ass and a lot of apologies and Michael's eventually forgiven me. So they've kissed and made up, and it's all good. You know what I'm saying? And he'll be the guy that'll be there next year. He will do the visor change next year, because he is the best at it. It's like when you forget to do that wheel nut, or you don't do the lock wire on your bike for an endurance race. That stuff happens. Sometimes it's worse than what it actually can be, and it can cost you your life, it can cost you your race, it can cost you your motorcycle, it can cost you whatever. Fortunately, it only cost him the race, and he had to wait one more race down the line to get the 27th victory and become the best rider in the world. But yeah, no, as I said to you, I mean, I spent a lot of time with the guy from Arrow, from Arrow UK and Arrow Europe, and their PR guy, a new guy, I've never met him before, but Sam said to me, he said it was an absolute nightmare for us, because here we are, waxing lyrical about how awesome this new visor change system is. And I actually, to be honest with you, I was sitting next to our friends that we met in 2018, Stevie Reel from Road Racing News. And we were chatting. We were just chatting about it, and we were watching the pit stop on the big screen. And I said to him, Stevie, that helmet, that pod's not closed. And as I said that, Strutto walked around and like hit it.
Okay.
So it popped, and it looked like it was in. But of course, as Michael rode out, the wind picked it up and it popped it back out again. So when he slowed up, I thought, oh no, the bike's broken. And then of course they showed the shot, and we only saw the video the next day of the guy that filmed it right from the sideline, where you actually see Michael taking everything off and redoing, and the crowd are going to him, take your time, relax, you got time. And he still had good time. I mean, I think he finished 7th, if I'm not mistaken, in the race, but not enough time to make up the 55-second deficit he can't. So from 25 seconds in lead, he goes to 55 seconds in arrears, but still has the audacity and the mental strength to stop, reload, fix, put back on, and go and break a lap time, set a new record in the superbikes on the last lap. So these oaks are machines, but I mean, I know you actually, and I'm a massive fan, you know that, of these MotoGP and World Superbike riders and any motorcycle rider in the world. Anybody who can climb on a bike and go that fast or attempt to go that fast, I take my hat off every single time. But when you've got that kind of mental strength, it's another ballgame, buddy. It really is.
Yeah, no, they're on a different planet. I mean, you were lucky enough to bump into one of our top South African boys, Darren Binder, there. And you asked him that exact question, when are we are you busy doing some TT kind of scouting here? And he was just like, no ways. And even me, I can't make that connection of, doing what I do on a racetrack, going that fast, and doing it on the road. People say, but you go fast on the road. It's not, it doesn't transition for me. It just doesn't comply. Computer says no for me.
Computer says no,
Computer says no. But
no.
They're able to do it every time. And listen, it was fitting because last year, we all know what happened last year with Michael Dunlop. He came so close. He had to wait a whole nother year. What kind of Michael Dunlop were we going to see? Were we going to see an agitated Dunlop that he didn't get it done the year before? Were we going to see a patient one? And Michael Dunlop's stock just is going up. It's funny that we don't see him in factory colors. He still likes to run his own kind of operation. He goes on Facebook and says, hi guys, I'm looking for personal sponsors. I've got sticker space on my bike. And you think, this is Michael Dunlop, and he's putting a Facebook post out saying, anyone want to sponsor me?
You know what I find with him, Robbie? Yes, in your and my opinion, there should be the likes of HRC, Yamaha, Triumph, all coming to him and saying, listen, Mike, let's stop messing around on Hawk Racing or Michael Dunlop Racing or Carl Cox Motorsport or whatever you want to do. Let's bring those guys. We'll give them some space, but let's give you a factory bike. Let's give you a John McGuinness bike. Let's give you a Dean Harrison bike. Let's give you a Peter Hickman BMW. Let's give you a whoever it is. I think as good as he is and as good a rider as he's becoming, and that sort of association with the non-approachable Michael Dunlop is slowly but surely being worn away. He still has that unapproachable, unmarketable look and feel to him. Please understand, I say that because I can say that knowing him the way I do. But he's a difficult guy to market. He's a difficult guy to bring to market, to bring to a boardroom table, because he literally tells it as it is. I mean, when he did his video, when he landed back in Northern Ireland and whoever won the competition he was running, they eventually stopped the video because of the swear words that were coming out. Not that that's a problem, but that's a Northern Irish thing, because they don't hold back their F's and S's and whatever. That's how they talk. So therein lies the problem in terms of the corporate saleability of Michael Dunlop. But put him on a motorcycle, buddy. There is no one in the world that can beat that oak on a good day. No one. You can bring whoever you want to. We were discussing the fact that Brian Reed was there because he was one of the celebration guys that was one of the original RI riders with Joey. And, Hellwood came into it, and Jim Redmond came into it, and those top riders of the era came into it. And we were all sort of chatting on the one day in the media center because we had nothing to do because it was pouring with rain. And we're saying, what would those oaks do on these bikes? And I don't think they'd cope, to be honest.
No.
125, a 250, and a 500 around this circuit was a daunting beast in those days. And your 119, 120 mile an hour lap that was broken eventually, it was a milestone. But you've got a 600 kilogram, 2-person, 600cc Suzuki with a pod around it that does it now in record breaking time at 120 miles an hour. Therein lies the difference.
Yeah.
In some of my posts, I put out and I said, he is the greatest. He's the greatest of all time now, Michael. There's no doubt about it. He's beaten his uncle. He's set 29 victories. He had a potential 30th if the clutch hadn't gone. And therein again shows you that's MD Racing. That's Michael doing the work on the bike himself. It's kind of like what do they call it? The Mille class in Dakar, where you've got to do all the work yourself. You've got to prep the bike. You've got to change your tires. You've got to do the engine. You've got to have the sleep, give yourself a massage, whatever. That's what he does. Yes, he's got a whole team that come with him and they help him out. But the nitty-gritty stuff is all still done by Michael Dunlop. That's what people fail to realize. Peter Hickman has a whole BMW squad that are looking after him. Josh Brooks has even more because he brings in his BSB team to help him out on all his stuff. With Davey Todd moving to Milwaukee BMW, there was a huge BMW contingent that were there. Him and Hickman were supposed to share a ride on that special retro version of that BMW bike that they never got out, unfortunately, because of the rain. Honda HRC, but they arrived with I promise you right now, factory parts flown in overnight from Japan. They didn't mess around. Dean Harrison's bike didn't work initially, but when they got it to work, oh my goodness, was it fast. So I think Michael's biggest downfall is unfortunately his personality and his persona as a motorcycle rider is getting better, but it's still not marketable to the big corporates. So he was. I don't think he'll ever change as well because that's how he is. He doesn't like the fanfare and the rigmarole and all that behind it. He gets on the bike, he gets the job done, and you'll see it if you ever get to see him in real life. And people that are watching, please take this as it comes. He literally walks through the crowd with his head down. He doesn't look at anybody. He gets to his pit box. He walks in the pit box. He has one chat to one of the mechanics who he talks to every single time without fail. And I think it's like you putting your left boot on as opposed to your right boot first. Okay, it's that thing. He talks to that guy. He sits down and he looks at the ground the whole time. He never looks up. I mean, I had to get his attention just a way to say good luck for the last one when I saw him because I was walking back from AJ, and he literally just gave me that was it. That's all I got. But I thought that is enough. Because I know where he is right now. And we all see this, I wanted to get an interview and I wanted to see this guy and he wasn't around and da-da-da. People, you got to realize this is what these oaks do. They're about to go and risk life and limb to go around the track at stupid speeds. So, I think, despite the fact that he's now the best ever, we talked about, you started this train of thought with, what were the big surprises for me? Well, one of the biggest was seeing Michael get on that top step of the podium, take the 26 victory, first of all. And the man who handed him the trophy, greatest of all time in motocross, Ricky Carmichael.
Yeah.
Brilliant marketing from Monster's point of view. Yeah. I've got a shot of them standing on the podium. You've got the king of the mountain and the king of supercross and motocross standing on the same podium, one rah-rahing the other one. I don't think Michael even knew who he was, to be honest. but that's just me. But everybody else did. Everybody else knew who that was. And that is going to be like, when Keith Flint got up on the Trooper Triumph victory that Hickman took in 2016. The first time that a Triumph had won at TT for ages. And of course it was sponsored by Keith Flint from the Prodigy. I mean, what are the chances of that? So those are the things that happen at TT the whole time. I mean, I spoke about it when we led up to it, about crashing into the Prince of Wales at that stage and taking him out, and then of course he's going to become the future king, not knowing that. But therein, I got an interview. Whereas if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got the interview. So there were a lot of great things that happened around Michael Dunlop these last 2 weeks or 2 weeks back from now, and I think people are saying. One of the things they put out, they said, Michael's the greatest now. He's got 29 victories. How many more can he do? I thought we'd get 30 out of him because I thought that the Honda was going to be the untouchable bike it was in the Superbikes had he not had the visor issue. But unfortunately, the clutch went. So that happens. And I mean, how do you know when a clutch is going to go and when it's not going to go on a motorcycle? You don't know. There's no way you can tell it. You can't go and prep that before and go, listen, I think we should change the clutch here because this looks a bit dodgy. The bike was working perfectly. He took it out the night before in the one lap warm up, and it was on rails. So he said, leave it, park it. We're going to bring it out tomorrow and do the senior. So yeah, I think from that aspect, it was fantastic to see. But there was a lot of then naysay afterwards as well, which you probably saw in some of the comments that were coming out. And the guys were saying, but will he win a TT at 45? I don't know. Will he? If the O carries on the way he's going, Valentino Rossi was still winning races at 40. So you never know. Does he really want to break that record as well? I don't know. I think he wants to try and walk away from his career at TT, first of all, not injured. More importantly, not dead. And with as many victories as he can possibly take. Of the 7 races that he raced in, or he had the ability to race in, 1 was cancelled. So he had 6 to play with. 1 he broke down in, and 1 he unfortunately was not able to do. It was out of his control. So 4 wins, breaks the record, sets a new outright record in the Superbikes, becomes the most winningest rider with 6 out of 6 victories in super sports. The Oak just keeps ticking them off, mate. There's a list there, and he just goes, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one. And then you get like the keyboard warriors going, well, what about this thing? And I'm like, well, dude, do you actually realize what he's done first before you go and tell me what you think he's going to do, or has he got the capability of doing? It's I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah. Big surprise as well, though, Robbie. We're talking about surprises. I'm waxing on you, so just jump in if you need to. Connor Cummings and stepping down. Caught a lot of people off guard, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally a huge amount of people. I mean, I chatted. He was the one rider who did come into the media center because he actually supplied us. He's known as the Coffee Man, of course, on the Isle of Man. And when I say Coffee Man, it's MANN that he makes. His coffee's called that, and he's the coffee guy. And he came in just to sort of say hi. And of course, I went up to him and said, like, tongue in cheek, thanks for the coffee. I appreciate it. It's got me through these 2 weeks. But I didn't get to speak to him afterwards. But that was literally the media center and the paddock went numb because, look, I think he was in the same scenario as what Davey was last year. Those Malenko by Paget Hondas were just not working. Hutchie was out there just to ride. He wasn't going to go and do anything spectacular. He just wanted to finish, do some riding, get his fans happy again. I don't think we'll ever see Ian Hutchinson back up on a podium unless something goes wrong with riders in front of him. He's not going to fight for a podium. He'll be out there to fill the field, to fly the flag high for his team, and to bring what Ian Hutchinson can bring to the party, and that is the only man who's ever won 5 in a row in the same week. So that's one record I think Michael will want to chase. That one I do think he'll want to have a go at. He nearly got it this year, had that Superbike not broken on the last one. He would have equaled it, but I think he wants to better it. I think he wants to get 6, or at least he'd like to get 7, but I think he'd like to get at least 6. And then hold that record as well, in my opinion. But that's just me. But yeah, I mean, when I chatted to Davey, and I said to him, listen, you've stepped up onto the BMW and you're looking good, you're feeling good, you can see you're a whole different package with this motorcycle, you've gelled with it. He said, I love the Honda. He said, it just didn't work. He said, whatever we tried, something went wrong. He said, it was just, and it had nothing to do with Clive Paget, it had nothing to do with the team, it had nothing to do with any of that. It just, him and the bike never gelled. Whereas when you saw it from the minute he climbed on that bike. He was just a machine. And so when you said at the top of the show, where you said to me, he would be the man to beat in the senior, there was no doubt about it in my mind. And when I ran the 2 competitions, and thanks for the support on those as well. When I put the Casio one out, and I said to them, listen, guys, who's your money on? They were all Michael Hickey. One person. Only one person went with Davey. And Yanni, he got the victory. And I mean, he's South African, but he lives in Scotland now. So I've got to spend a gazillion pounds to get the package to him, but I'll get that to him. He said to me, there was just something about Davey, the 4-lap format as opposed to the 6-lap format. He said, I don't think I would have gone with it had it been the 6-lap format.
Yeah.
The change in the formats and of course the whole change in programs was another thing that was a big, spoiler in some ways to a lot of riders' plans for the week, I think.
Mm-hmm. So talking about Davy Todd, I mean, I just got that sense of a rider that was confident. As you said, the Honda, it's not performing in MotoGP, it's not performing in World Superbikes. It's a stubborn motorcycle. It's an unpredictable motorcycle. When it's on, it's on. When it's not, it's not. Tommy Bridewell is starting to get things right in BSB on it, but he's had his failings in BSB on it. So the Honda project is just, it's an and an if at the moment. But Davy Todd made the move. Go to BMW. We all know the strength of the BMW. It's speed. It's a screamer. It's not necessarily as nimble as maybe the likes of the Honda and the Yamahas and stuff, but it's certainly, a reliable beast. And Davy made that transition. And heading into the TT, I wasn't, I was thinking of Davy, but he wasn't at the forefront of my mind. And then as soon as I saw that picture, I went, right. A rider only does that if you're confident. You don't go put your elbow down at the bungalow because you don't do that. So when I saw that, I was like, right, that's a state to me as a rider and a pundit and pulling him in there. I went, right, that is a statement from a rider saying, right, to everyone in that paddock, to everyone around the world, catch me if you can. Look,
stand by.
And he won the one Superbike race, although it was handed to him in a way because of whatever. But anyway, he came out for the TT and he dominated, and he just looked so good throughout that whole the whole 2 weeks. In fact, he on the Ducati Supersport bike, which you don't do. You don't take a Ducati to TT. You just don't do it. He takes it there.
No,
and
exactly.
And it was a popular win. I mean, Davy Todd's stock is just going up. We remember meeting him a few years back. He was AJ's teammate. He was still this weird mullet-looking kind of kid, and you were like, okay, yeah, hello, very cute. But you were talking about Michael Dunlop at 45, who's why not? Why can't he carry on? And as soon as you said that, I went, well, the problem there is who's stepping up to beat him. There's not like these 21-year-olds, these 19-year-olds. Davy Todd is a 28-year-old that is potentially going to dominate the team.
So let me just clarify that the comment that was made is will Michael be able to win when he's 45? Remember, he's not 45 yet.
Yes.
So he's still got a long career ahead of him, especially at TT if he carries on the way he's going. I mean, you look at Dave Molyneux and how many times he's been racing, and he retired after this one. But Michael has got that potential to carry on winning for the next at least 10 years. You speak about the fact that Davy's the young gun coming through. First practice sessions for Superbikes and Superstock, Honda were nowhere. Nathan Harrison, their young gun, was quickest out of all of them. That's why I went and spoke to him specifically, because he was the man to beat. Dean couldn't get the bike to work. McGuinness couldn't get the bike to work. They were all battling. And of course, the only Honda that was working was Michael's, but he's not a factory bike. So you think to yourself, well, and it's a big talking point, which I'm going to put into the article with Motor Rider World, is how do we recover now after this TT, first of all? And when I say recover, there is very little to none. And when I say none, 5 new riders at TT this year.
Yeah.
So what is the big factor? And in my opinion, the biggest factor is the cost. Guys they don't have the ability to go and fund themselves or get people to fund them like the Veronicas of the world, who've got a persona that can be marketed. Okay.
Yes.
Lady rider, good looking girl, from a Eastern Bloc country, racing at the TT. Fantastic. Great story. Okay. Not everybody's got that ability to pull that story. Even AJ battled to get the Tom together for this. And he's I think a pretty marketable guy. And he does his sponsors a lot of good when he has to do what he has to do for the sponsors. However, when you look at the amount of new riders that came in, and I chatted to Milky about it, and I said to him, what's the deal here? How are we going to remedy this? He said they're doing a whole program via the British system and via the road racing races that they do there, Southern 100 and Northwest 200, etc., where they're trying to bring youngsters in and get them enticed to possibly bring along. He says, but the problem we've got is it's the cost. The cost factor throws in a huge huge sort of detrimental, issue to the riders, where they can go and race a full season at British regional level as opposed to, BSB for the same money they're going to spend for 2 weeks and 7 races. Like last year, Rutter ran that I can't remember what it was, but it was like a full factory HRC Honda in his team.
Yeah, the
£1,000 a lap, man. £1,000 a lap. What the hell are you thinking? That's just that. I mean, yes, okay, it's Michael Rutter, and also a nice surprise there was the awesome gift he got given as the first corner into Glen Helen is now Rutter's. But
yes.
£1,000 a lap is just a ridiculous amount of money. You got people in South Africa, it's 23,000 rand to do 60 Ks. Where the hell are you going to find that money? As I said, if you're a 6 foot redhead with big boobs and can ride a motorcycle well, enough to finish every single race she did, Veronica, I'm talking about. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But she also got help from her country and from sponsors in the country that all paid. So that marketing side of things comes into play. But bottom line is most of these people don't have that ability to market themselves. The guys that are running from, I'm not even going to say from age anymore because he's running top 20 now, but the guys that are running 30 to 50th, they're all funding themselves. And they're all trying to skimp and save as much as they can. When I say skimp and save, you must know what that paddock looks like, because you've got guys walking around, and this is the insight that you wanted, and I hope this is what the people are going to enjoy. You've got guys walking around from the French team and from the Japanese rider, walking around to the likes of John Burrows when I was doing an interview with him and asking whether they've got any spare tires.
Jeez.
And they're prepared to pay £200 for a set of Hutchie's used Metzlers.
Jeez.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. So I was very fortunate to be right there as the guy walked up and said, listen, I've run out of tires. Do you have any? John Burrows, who we met with AJ, he was the team boss at that stage, still is the team boss of RK Racing and Burrows Engineering, went to the back, said, I've got this set. This is where they've done. Hutchie's done 2 laps on these. He says, I'll give them to you for £200. £100 a tire. That's $2,300 a tire. Okay? Not a lot of money when you look at a South African tire. You buy a set of tires for $4,000 and say if you go, whatever you're going to go for, yeah? So it's about the same amount of money. But remember, you're now there. You've got this much budget.
Yeah.
How are you going to waive the additional bits and pieces?
Yes.
The other AJ, for instance, gets there and says, right, I've got everything, here we go. And they go, well, no, your chest protector is not going to make the scrutinarian. Okay. Go to Alpine Stars, go to RST, go to whoever's got, thank goodness Warren Guantario was there, because they couldn't find his boots the one morning. So he went and bought boots. Was they sent me a message today, I had to send him a clip from YouTube of you and I talking about him in 2017 at Super GP level. And there he is as the sort of the main guy at RST and at Oakley.
Yes.
Helping out. Thank goodness we got that South African contact there, because he managed to get a set of boots. Fortunately, I found them, so he didn't have to buy them. They took him back and they refunded him. But those are the kind of things that those backmarkers have to deal with daily to get onto the grid, not to win races, just to get themselves onto the grid. People don't realize, motorsport is expensive. We all know that. But to run for 2 weeks on a shoestring budget, I take my hat off to those guys at the back, because they really are truly incredible in their ability to survive the hardest motorcycle race in the world. And sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. Those guys they're on the shoestring budget, so they're running on second-hand tires. Will those tires last for the 4 laps? Will they last for the 2 laps that they required for? You don't know.
No.
You don't know why Hutchie's pulled those tires off and said, I don't like these. Maybe the compound's not right. As a back marker, are you going to feel the difference? I don't think so. As a front runner, 100%. You knew when you got onto a motorcycle whether the tire worked or not.
Yeah.
And you would go to Pirelli, you would go to Bridgestone and say to them, listen, just change this because this is not working. I need a front tire that's going to work better. Or I need a back tire that's going to work better. It's not happening. So there's a lot of ums and ahs out there. But the bottom line is that when you look at those kind of guys, And when you see what I saw, he has this Japanese rider. I mean, how much money did he spend? How far has he come?
Yeah.
That's the furthest traveling rider out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to come from the far east of Japan all the way through to Europe and then still get it to the TT race, finish all the races. He finished up and they gave him a really nice accolade on the final prize giving as well to say, you know, congratulations. It's been a long time since a Japanese rider's gone this whole hog. But I mean, look, I know he had some sponsors behind him, but those sponsors only last that amount. Eh? When you run out of tires, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go to Metzler and have to buy a new set at £500? Or do you go to John Burroughs and say, listen, do you have any spares?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm prepared to take whatever Hutchie's thrown away.
I have to. I'm not prepared to.
I don't have a choice. Yeah, I don't have a choice. Crazy.
Talking about budget. Dominique Funny Cack. I don't know why Funny Cack.
Yeah, I don't know. She Dominique. Yeah, Dom the Bomb, I think, is what her other name is.
No. It should be Dominique Fenter by now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now she comments here. Now you know why I'm still not married, but have a shelf full of TT replicas.
100% right. No, we know that. So now listen. So when I did the final interview, and of course I got quite emotional in that final interview because I know how much work has gone into what AJ did. 7 races, 7 finishes. Every single time went faster, set new lap records, set new personal bests. Team were ecstatic with him at TH Racing. Lacquer Racing were over the moon because of their 4 finishes in the bikes in the races they came to. In fact, I lie. In the 3 finishes that they came to play in, Superbikes, Superstocks, and the senior. They would have had a 4th one had they got the second Superstock out and running. You know. And when I get emotional around motorsport, there's 2 things. It's because I have a friendship with the person that's involved, and I know how much work they've put in. It was the same when you crashed at Kyalami. The first person into the ICU other than Amy was me.
Yeah.
So I understand, you know, and people say, you just talk cock about what you. Yeah, I do. That's what I do. That's what I love doing, and I've done it for 27 years now. But the reason I do the way I do is because of those relationships I built with the people around me and the people that I have to physically talk about and the people that I have to remind that when AJ gets the tap on the shoulder and heads off, and I want to say another word there, but stop myself. I nearly went Michael Dunlop on us there. Heads off down Bray Hill. What are the chances of him coming back? I mean, coming back to the finish line and riding in to see his little son waiting for him to high-five him. That's the difference. So, yeah, Dom, I agree 100%, sweetie. You know, the sacrifices you've had to put up with, phenomenal. The sacrifices that AJ's done over the last, 2013 was 10 years. So it's 11 years this year that he hasn't done every single one, but he started in 2013.
Yeah.
Are immense. You know, Tracy, the first person Tracy sends a message to when I'm at TT is me, not Dom, because she can't get hold of Dom. To find out, is that AJ that crashed? Is the red flag for him? No, it's not. Don't worry, he's okay. Those are the things, you know, that people don't realize. When a red flag comes out, in the old days, they would wax lyrical and show still shots of the pit lane and show still shots. Now, TT Plus shuts down. Finished. The live stream gets shut off. Rob, the timing gets shut off. You can't get into timing to go back to the previous race to look and see, oh, yeah, I need to make a note about that. Who was that in 3rd place in that race? Oh, hang on. I can't get in. Timing's off. That's how serious they take a situation that could potentially have a death involved in it. They don't want to be caught out, I think, like they were 2 years ago when the incorrect information was put out. And they said these guys were game over, and that wasn't them, it was the other guys. So they become very strict that way. And that's probably one of the reasons why they become so strict with the media and the handling of the media, etc., is that they don't want that incorrect information getting out via channels that are not supposed to be handling those kind of things. So, Dom, from my point of view, I can tell you right now, your man would not be where he is without you. Take nothing away from Andre, take nothing away from Tracy Lynn. What they've done for that kid is spectacular. But his biggest support and bugbear now is, of course, his beautiful wife-to-be. And yes, can you imagine what Trey would be doing on the side of a track if you were doing what he was doing. If you think that one video clip of AJ going mull at Craigney Bar, well, I mean, it's one of the biggest hits that the TT racing had over the entire 2 weeks was little AJ literally doing a TikTok style-esque video going ooh, with the tongue out and everything. It was mental. It was mental, you know. So yeah, I know you're exactly right, Tom. It's the reason why you haven't been able to do what you want to do in terms of finalizing the beautiful life you're going to have together as a couple. And trust me, that's going to happen. You don't need to worry about that. That timing is crucial. I mean, when I said to AJ, what's up for next year, and he said, I've got to marry this beautiful woman next to me. Well, I'll do that because I can honestly say, I think it will complete the package. And his ability as a rider will probably get better and better because of that, having done the deal.
Absolutely. Greg, Scott Mordaunt says here, and it's let me tell you, this is a big question in the UK here as well as in South. I think it's a big question around the world in terms of motorcycle racing and motorsport in general. Has the marketability of the TT not gotten struck with a 35 plus audience? Now, this it's the same contention I'm dealing with the trying to sell the zero motorcycles that are market here in the UK. The young people aren't getting. There's the odd few that short circuit racing and that, but certainly the thought pattern of when I was 16, I'm getting a bike and I'm riding to my mate's house. I'm going to my girlfriend. I'm going to the mall. That's when you turn 16, you get a bike. That's what you did growing up. That is not the same mentality now. So this is the problem we have.
100%.
Exactly what Scott says here. The TT is attracted to 35 plus. It's I would say even me at 42 is probably 35 is probably you're scraping the barrel of the audience that we're getting with TT now. So how much longer does that last? I asked AJ the question before the TT happened when we did the live with him. How much life does the TT have left in it in terms of an event with the insurance? You can touch upon. I didn't hear you just spoke now about the TT shutting down when there was a crash. I certainly didn't hear as much drama of deaths and this and that coming out of the TT. So how much of the TT is left in terms of the event with everything that happens on and off, and how much of riders coming through, as you said, the cost and actual people wanting to do it?
So I think my answer will go in threefold. Let me start with the comment that you just made, and hopefully, Scott, this will sort of put to rest what you're thinking. It's the same thinking I had. Yes, 100%. You and I both grew up loving motorcycles, playing on some motocross bikes when you weren't allowed to ride a motorbike legally, maybe riding the scooter down to the cafe and back so that you possibly maybe chased by one of those SAP vans and have to try and take evasive action to miss out on it through Randburg or through Alberton or wherever you lived. The world has changed in terms of what a 16-year-old wants to do. It's not ride motorcycles. Unless you've come through a family like yours, mine, Brad's, AJ's, where racing is in the blood. Okay? The feeder system in South Africa, you were synonymous with it, with MRS and the whole development categories on the short circuit as well as on the motards and et cetera, et cetera. We were involved at Super GP where we had the NRCs into the KTM Super Cup, into 600s, thousands, and then to the greener pastures overseas. That's still happening. It's still pretty strong. But do I see a TT rider coming out of South Africa in the near future? Hell no. Not even close.
No.
There's nobody in this country, and I even say that when I spoke to Blaze and to Darren, who I think has got the ability to do what these guys do. They don't have the mental strength. They've got the physical, they've got the capabilities on a motorcycle, but to do that and to take that risk, young people are not prepared to do. Second part of the question in answering is the same thing we mentioned earlier on, is what is the feeder factor for TT? How are they getting riders? Milky couldn't answer. You know, his whole feeder system that they've got in the British Superbikes through to the road racing scene is catering for the 35 and plus. And the reason why, it's the same as when you're trying to sell motorcycles, Rob. A 16-year-old to 25-year-old in the UK hasn't got the dispensable income to buy a motorcycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
He hasn't got that additional money to pay. And does he really need it? No, because he can get on a bus and he can get on a train and do what he wants to wherever he wants to go. Same thing applies here in South Africa. We've made our kids' lives very easy in the fact that we either take them somewhere ourselves or there's Uber. Okay, so I'm a prime example of this. I've got a 21-year-old in 4 months' time, and I've got an 18-year-old, both with learner's license. Deacon's had his learner's license now for 2 years. I bought him a scooter. He used the scooter for 2 or 3 times and then just parked it. Didn't want it. Didn't care. Because, okay, yes, he had to carry stuff and bits and pieces, so the scooter wasn't really conducive to what he was doing. But in our day, a scooter or a 50cc or a 125 was the epitome at a school. You had a motorbike, you were the king, bud. Okay? That doesn't happen anymore because mom and dad take you to school, or you get the bus, or you get an Uber. And Uber is probably the biggest bugbear in the motorcycle and motor industry at this stage, because if that continues to be such a successful format, who needs a car?
Yeah, who needs anything?
You know, do I want to have the 1,500 rands worth of insurance to pay a month? Do I want to have in every 6 months to take it for a service at 7 to 8 grand for a service? Do I want to have the chance to, you know, save and scrimp and save just to put petrol in my car to drive to my mate's house? Different story when we were paying, you know, 10 rand a litre, where you and I could afford to run my Mini and I could afford to run my Cadet. Not anymore, but you know, it doesn't happen. People that are earning salaries can do that. Or if you're a multimillionaire and you can buy your son a present, different story. But is he necessarily going to go and race that motorcycle? I don't think so. Because they're all, I don't want to say they're all, but there's a lot more gratification that comes from sitting on your phone, and a lot more gratification on sitting on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever it is. That's the way they go. I'm taking nothing away from it. Please understand, this is not a go at the current youth.
No.
Our kids do it.
It's just what it is.
It's the way of the world. We have changed the way things go in terms of mobility.
Yeah.
People's mobility is a completely different story. I look at, maybe this is a good example to use. I would say at least 70% of people on the Isle of Man are not driving cars. They are riding electric bicycles. Not motorbikes, bicycles.
Yeah, bicycles.
Dual suspension. What are they? Probably 5,000 to 10,000 pound bicycles. Here in South Africa, 120 to 180,000 rand bicycles. That's what they commute on. That's what they use on a daily basis. And like, there's a show Mom and Sam are watching at the moment. It's called Chelsea Detective or something. The little detective guy that's the main lead actor, he uses a bicycle on a daily basis. That's his transport. He doesn't have a car. So you're fighting a market that doesn't want motorbikes. You're fighting a market that doesn't have the money to buy a motorbike. So Scott, when you say what is the longevity of the TT, please God, it carries on for a long time. I really do wish that, because there's nothing like it in terms of a motorsport spectacle event. But in order for it to carry on, there has to be a feeder process. There has to be a feeding into the TT. Whether that's 10, 35-year-olds that arrive next year, I don't care. If there's a couple of young guns that come to test their skills, they're going to find it a bit difficult to get in, especially with the way AJ's gone about it. And it's taken him 10 years to get into the figures he's always wanted to get into. 10 years of bumming a ride from a team, paying for a ride for a team, getting someone to sponsor him a ride on a team, to eventually bringing his own team out 2 years in a row. That's a massive investment on a similar scale in terms of, and when I say this, the MotoGP guys are going to shoot me down, but what Brad's dad did for Brad and Darren, and what Andre and Tracy and all of his sponsors have done for AJ, are on a similar level. Yes, it's different because MotoGP is so much higher in terms of the hierarchy of motorcycle racing. But I would say blood, sweat, and tears, financial, mental, physical, blah, 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 etc. It's a similar sort of situation.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of riders go and try it. You know, Clinton went out, Hudson did it, and Hudson, multiple SA champion at that stage. They've all had a chance to do it, and they haven't pursued it as far as what AJ's done, or as far as some of the. And I look at even Francesco Coringa, the Italian rider. He was there in 2018 as a rookie. Now, 6 years down the line, mixing it up in the top 20. You know, he's there. Yes, he might be fighting with guys he was still fighting with back then, but bottom line is those oaks have all upped their pace. They've all got to the level that they've needed to get to. They've got better and better every single time they do it. And that's what happens with TT, with any racing. The more time you spend in the saddle, the better. The problem that you got with TT, though, is that you've only got 7 practice sessions, which you can maybe get 1 or 2 laps of each bike in.
Yeah, so
when it's an open session,
20 laps max.
Exactly, of a 60k, 37.75 mile circuit. To learn that as a rookie, you can understand why AJ's taken so long to get to where he got to. Because he might go into the first race where he's done a couple of PlayStation laps, or he's taken a couple of laps around, or as he did in his first couple of outings, would get in the van every night and just drive the track, so that even at night he could tell you there's a signpost, there's a manhole, there's a this, there's my braking marker, this. You know, you watch those laps where they commentated on, and you think, geez, how the hell do these actually remember where all the stuff is? Once you've done it for 10 years, maybe it becomes a little bit second nature. But even for 10 years at second nature, you can make a mistake like Hickman did. You know, not pushing it like you should be into that corner, rolling off slightly, knowing that you've got a little bit of a margin, and then making a mistake. Costly one sometimes.
Yep.
So, Scott, I hope that answers the question, buddy. But yeah, I do agree. We're in a bit of a tight patch right now in terms of what this future of TT is. It's 107 years, I think it was this year, of TT racing. In that 107 years, we've had the best of the best race this course. The best motorcycle riders in the world have all ridden on this track, including Valentino Rossi. He didn't race it, but he rode it. Got off the bike and said, never, no way. But your new heroes coming through are going to come from AJ's pack. Yep. They are going to replace the Hickmans, the Harrisons, the McGuinnesses, the Rutters, the Helias, etc. Those are going to be where your next set of heroes are going to come out of. Top of the list right now would be Nathan Harrison, in my opinion. He is the Davey Todd of 2018 this year. Okay. Watch him in 4 years' time. I'm saying that. I'm just going to put it out there. If he continues the way he's going with the mature head he's got on his shoulders, even as a young rider, I think he's got a good chance of a great TT career. With the backing of HRC, you can't go wrong with that. So I think it's a good point to raise there. But yeah, I think there must be a concern in the organizer's point of view as to why there was so little new riders coming through, and what are they going to do to secure the future of TT.
Yeah, here's the bigger problem for me, Greg, is it's a bit in the way of BSB. I still love watching BSB, don't get me wrong, but World Superbikes also went through it for a stage, World Superbikes, where it becomes a bit mundane. I'm seeing the same riders. I'm seeing, South African motorcycle racing went through it. Yeah, Greg Moloney, they're fantastic. Lance Isaac, they're fast. But geez, I've been watching these guys ride fast for the last 15 years now. You know, I'm a bit tired of it. And now the TT is going in. Davey Todd was kind of a shining light because, I'm pretty sure the organizers would have gone, thank God Davey Todd won the TT. It's something fresh. It's something new because we can't keep relying on John McGuinness, Michael Dunlop, Peter Hickman, Dean Harris. We can't keep relying on these guys. I've spoken to John McGuinness a couple of times at various events now, this side and that, and in mixing with some of my mates, we kind of the question always comes up, John, why are you still doing this? John, why you don't need the money, you've got the money, but why do you keep putting yourself at risk every year at the age you're not going to go win it? you're not there.
52 years old.
And he kind of just says, yeah, you know what, I still want to, and I think it's more of every year Honda put a contract in front of him, because Honda go, well, who else do we put on that bike? Okay, he finished 5th, which is commendable for John McGuinness.
Yeah.
But from you were talking about market value, everything. John McGuinness has still got this name. It's dwindling a little bit for sure. There's no doubt about that. But who else do you put on that bike that's going to give you top 5? That's going to market. That's going to sell T-shirts. That's going to, who's going to give you?
You know what it is, Rob? It's kind of like you can run a parallel with NASCAR, and you look at the sort of Dale Earnhardt Jr. era when Jeff Gordon came in, and there was the big rivalry between Gordon and Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr., as you said, and what reminded me was you say T-shirt seller, the best T-shirt seller in the world still. Holds the Guinness World Record for selling T-shirts as a known name brand. McGuinness, you say, might be dwindling in terms of your support. I can tell you right now, you come to the island, I'll change your mind as you land.
Really?
McPint is a god. I promise you right now. When that oak walks around, the people sort of lift him up and they carry him. He doesn't even have to walk. That's how much they love him. And that 5th place, they went mull. I mean, at one point he got up to 3rd. Yes, he didn't hold on to it, but he was in 3rd place for one place. He got a 3rd place on a podium at the Northwest at 53 years of age, 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
The place erupted. It erupted, but so I think the British fan base, he's still got a huge following. Maybe world support, maybe not as much as what he had in his heyday.
Yes.
But he's still a man to be reckoned with in terms of motorcycle and his ability. And the same question was asked when we didn't get invited to the Honda event where they gave him the 100-year anniversary bike that he rode. just saying. But the same question was asked. Why do you keep doing this? He says, because this is what I do. I think you can sort of correlate it to when a sniper or a Marine or a SEAL team member comes back from active duty and they have to hang up their frog skins and their rifles, etc., and have to come home to normal life. How do you survive?
Yeah.
You're a trained machine that is made to go and kill whatever you've got to kill. Now you come home to changing nappies and mowing the lawn and going to fetch bread and milk. Okay? John McGuinness, I think, is on a similar vein. He races motorcycles. That's what he does. So his only, I think, fallback is, and there has to be an opportunity to open up, which you and I both know is rare and very far and few and far between, is getting into the commentary team.
Yeah.
Maybe they chuck him into the commentary team and he becomes the next Murray Walker, has a career in commentary, which I think would be a good step for him. But right now, as you and I both know, and as much as I tried to get involved in any of that stuff, which I had already sort of made contacts with at 2018, those doors are sealed tight, bud.
Yep.
If it hadn't been for Chris Boyd, I would never even got into the tower.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I could call on that favor to get what we did with him. But that's where I see the future for McGuinness is he either hangs up when he does hang up the boots and decides to give it up, he goes and enjoys his retirement and lives off the nice money he's got paid out of Honda for the last 20 years, or he goes and makes a career out of it and starts his own team and maybe becomes a team boss, or as I said, goes into commentary, goes into presenting, goes into the TV production side of things and brings his color that he has oodles of experience to the party. Cam O'Donnell does it with ITV. You've got
Steve Plater.
Sorry, I'm just trying to remember them all. Steve Parrish did it for a while. You had Lee Johnson, who was doing commentary with the live PA team with Chris Boyd. Those guys all bring in knowledge that those guys can't bring as you and I used to try and bring you from a professional racing point of view. I didn't do it professionally. I just did it for fun. But when I ask you a question about racing, I know I'm going to get the real deal.
Yeah.
When I ask Lee Johnson, I'm going to get the real deal. When I ask John McGuinness, might be just a little bit higher up than what Greg Moloney can talk about.
Yes.
But therein lies his future opportunities. A lot of guys have done that, or a lot of guys just go, you know what, I'm done. I'll come and make a celebrity appearance every now and again, like we saw with Brian Reed, like we saw with Carl Fogarty, like we saw with Hellwood, like we saw with all the greats. They come out every now and again. They get paid a gazillion rand to be there for that 2 days, and then they go home. Great, he deserves it. The amount of effort he's put in, the risks he's taken, the wins he's had, phenomenal. Well done. So, hold your head up high no matter what you do, John McGuinness. That's not a problem. The problem we have, though, is who gets that ride.
Yeah.
Who do we put into that ride now, Rob? Honda are going, well, we don't have anybody right now, so let's put McPint back on the bike for another year. When we eventually find that rider, whole nother ball game.
So looking at it, Warwick Evans puts it perfectly. It's passion. That's why he's there. As you said, it's because it's all he knows, what he does. One guy that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit for me in terms of what he's achieved and what he achieved in the senior TT, and slowly, well, not slowly, because he's a podium TT rider now. Looks like he's made that transition to almost, okay, I'm a road racer now. And his BSB kind of career is kind of dwindling a little bit, although he was still competitive at the past weekend. Still has the odd shining moment in BSB, but certainly dwindling. And now shining more on the road races, and certainly the TT weekend is Josh Brooks. Brilliant senior TT. Kind of went under the radar the whole kind of race, the 2 weeks, the race week especially, and then all of a sudden, bang, on the podium. Yes, we know, Michael Dunlop's failings, Peter Hickman crashing out. You kind of got what you wanted from Dean Harrison. You knew he was going to be fast. He was there. Davey Todd was a little bit of a surprise with the ultimate pace that he showed, but you knew he was going to be there. Josh Brooks wasn't someone that I would have thought about even being close to the podium. 6th, 7th, even a McGuinness maybe beat him. But there he is, Josh Brooks, full factory BMW Monster Energy. Fine, he's got the equipment to do it. But certainly this transition into TT contender every year now has kind of clicked with Josh Brooks.
To a point, I have to agree. What I do find with him, and it was one of the things that it threw me a bit with him as well, was he's very much, you're going to laugh when I say that, he's very much a BSB rider. Okay. Yeah. He is entourage. Yes. Yes, I'll give you time. I'll give you time now, but actually, I don't have the time for you, kind of thing. So the Oak can ride a motorbike. Okay, the guy can ride a motorbike. One of the biggest hits of the entire 2 weeks was him going off through Kirkmichael and putting it up onto the pavement and running wide and nearly through the Oak's front door. Yes. I don't think anybody would have pulled that back other than him, to be honest. Yes. But in saying that, I still touted him as a firm favorite for both the senior and for superbikes. Not for superstocks, because he didn't like the superstock bike. He didn't like the setup on the superstock bike. He preferred the little bit of extra traction and whatever they put into that BMW compared to the stocker. His time to shine was certainly this one, where Hickman was not shining, where Hickman was kind of on a lull. Brooks, I think, could have taken a bit more by the reins and forcibly moved higher up in the hierarchy there. Okay. I think what his problem is that he is dictated to by FHO, knowing that he is the second rider. He's not the number one rider. And I think he's in a similar vein to, where we look at the likes of Bastianini and Pecco, and we look at the likes of those team politics that come into play.
Yep.
When Hickman was out, I think there was a chat with him saying, Hickey's out.
Go.
Everything you got.
Yeah.
Give it everything you got. And he did. And I think he's got that ability to do that. Another big factor which comes into play is where they start.
Yes.
Now, I didn't really take that into account initially in my first time, because I was just, we're at TT, who cares, Yeah. But there is certainly a huge
there's an order you want to be.
Yeah, there's a huge mental, and there's a huge I can't remember what the word I want to say, but he starts number 7. Okay,
Yes.
that's where he starts.
Michael Dunlop.
I don't think that's the place he should be starting. I think he should be starting 2, 3, or 4, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because he's got a carrot to catch, or maybe 2, and then he's got clean air.
Yes.
And I think Josh Brooks with clean air is a whole nother ballgame, is a whole nother animal.
Yeah, but you don't think Davey Todd starting at number 8 coming past him was also that, in MotoGP you pick up the toe. You don't think that kind of helped?
But that's what I'm saying. So Davey Todd on his tail and him knowing he's on similar machinery, if not faster machinery, he's thinking he's coming.
Yes.
If he's starting in 3, 4, and 5, he's got to get past Hillier. He's got to get past Rutter. He's got to get past maybe Dean Harrison, which he probably won't get past, but he's got to get past McGuinness. He knows he's going to get those 3 of the 4. By the end of the 6 laps, or by the end of the 4 laps, depending on which race they're in, he's going to catch Harrison because he's on better machinery. So that whole throwing the carrot out there for him to catch, I think will change his riding style. And I've never said it to him, but if it was me and what I've seen in terms of the tactics that get played, that's the reason why. The reason why Hickman starts in 10th is he likes to chase. He's very much a guy who says, right, I've got Rutter, Todd, Brooks, Hillier, Harrison, Paul Jordan, McGuinness. That's what I got to do. And he'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. By the second lap, he's on 6, 7, 8, and he might not get to the front, but that ability to chase the riders is what gives him the edge, in my opinion.
Okay.
Whereas you watch Dean Harrison, he's on. I think if Josh was in Dean Harrison's position and started 3rd, he'd be winning TTs already.
Yeah, but you say that, but I've heard it come out the paddock a couple of times. If Dean Harrison didn't start number 3, he would have a better chance at winning because he's 3, and on the first lap he's passed, McGuinness.
He's got no one to chase,
and he's got no. He's the carrot, and people are saying, why do you? And he said, no, I just like number 3. I love the number 3.
But you see, there's the reverse strategy. Dean's not a man who can run out front on his own. Dean likes to chase. So when you look at what happened when he dropped back slightly in the senior, and he had to make up that time, by making up the time with someone to catch, he was able to do that. Josh, I think, is like a seller or is like a Pecco. They want to get out. They want to get out front. They want to control things from the front. They want to know their pit boards are going to come out saying, I've got 20 second, I've got 30 second, I've got whatever it is, and they will maintain. That's what I'm saying. If you put Josh into 2, 3, 4, he's going to win TTs. At 7, he's not, because he's got too much to worry about coming from behind. That's what's catching him out. He knows it's Todd and Hickman behind him.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
With Connor out, there was no issue. Connor wasn't there anymore, so the 9 bike's gone. You got Hickman's got 30 seconds to make up. Yes. As opposed to the 10 seconds, because they leave that gap for the rider that's not there. Doesn't matter. He's still coming. And Josh knows that. Whereas if he was further up the line of starting, I think he'd be on a ball game. That's just what I saw and what I've seen so far in his riding. When he gets to the front, he's like a seller. He will hold that margin and not let anybody catch him. Dunlop did it. Dunlop from 6th place got to the front by lap 3, passed Harrison, and just maintained.
But do you think
Dino was there? Mixing it with him?
Do you think that the FHO team you were saying is Josh Brooks definitely number 2? Do you think it's a strategy of, right, you go number 7 and Peter at number 10, you're going to be the gauge. So Peter's going to gauge between himself.
100%.
So
100%, Rob. Yeah, it's also a big factor to slow Toddy down.
Todd, yeah.
If he catches, and I think that's one of the reasons why Josh was maybe not as quick through the Superbike and through the Superstock races. He was there to try and hinder Davey's ability to get to the front.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always a team strategy. There has to be, otherwise they wouldn't have teammates.
We just
but as I said, I think if you put him higher up on the grid, I would say 3rd would be ideal, but that's Harrison's position. I don't think he's going to give that up that easily. But you put him 4 and 5, Buddy, he'll get through that pack rapidly. He might not catch Dean. He'll be faster than Dean because he's going to be quicker in terms of his overall and the overall time accumulated for the race. But he'll be a machine. He really is. I think, a lot of people. I think he's very much underrated at TT. To be honest with you, he's a very underrated rider. And as you said, he's slowly climbed onto his own ability as a TT rider now. He's no longer just a PSP rider who's coming in to do TT. He's now a TT rider. No doubt about it.
There were a couple more really good performances looking just inside the top 10 here. Mike Brown in 6th. Sean Anderson impressed me in 8th on the Team Classic Suzuki. I mean,
sure.
The Suzuki's it's old in the tooth. It doesn't have wings. It doesn't have downforce. It's got a very basic. It's an old bike. And when I saw this classic Suzuki guy running around on a Gixxer 1000, competing inside the top 10, I was like, you have no right to be there. You just have.
Now, what are you doing?
Right to be there. And
what are you doing? Did you get a factory bike from Suzuki MotoGP?
yeah, and if it was, it's 10 years old. So Mike Brown, Sean Anderson, Paul Jordan inside the top 10 as well. Rob Hodgson just outside the top 10. So we were talking earlier about, you were saying there's a couple more names coming. Are these potential names that could
for sure?
Could be
for sure. I think Mike Brown is a big talking point. In the program they touted him as a man to watch out for, as a potential threat, a thorn amongst the roses, and he's been there or thereabouts on a few occasions. Okay. To get onto that podium, as you know, I mean, I always talk about it in commentary. You get that first podium, the next one comes pretty rapidly, and then they tend to fall in good succession for a long time if you have everything go according to plan. One of the nicest oaks in the paddock, I've got to tell you, is Mike Brown.
Okay.
Chilled out, really relaxed guy, easy to talk to, easy to get to as well. I just hope that he doesn't become the corporate entity that the other riders have become.
Yeah.
Very fast. You spoke about the classic Suzuki, but I want to touch on the Suzuki entries that were there. If you look at the 750 that they chucked in with Hodgson in the twins, and the way that they played around with the ability of those bikes to be slightly less in terms of the power output of the other bikes because of them being 4 cylinders.
Yes,
they gave them, I think it was a 79.6% throttle or something like that. They could only go to 79% on the throttle, so you couldn't get full throttle out of that bike.
Yes.
So to ride those bikes like they were is spectacular style. So hats off. Hodgson, he was one of the biggest TikTok videos of the week with that crash he had coming into Ramsey Hairpin.
Yes.
He came out of Bullock, he went through Parliament, and as he came out of Parliament, big high side, off the bike, slid across the road, and we thought, oi. Got up, walked away, all good. Climbed on the bike next day, and in contention for podiums, in contention for top 10s all the way through. So he is certainly a man I would look at in the future, on a similar vein to what we saw with the likes of Nathan Harrison, the likes of Toddy coming through. You mentioned Sean Anderson, also top class, brilliant effort there on that bike. But then there's a couple of other guys that are not just in the top 10, but just outside of the top 10 that are showing potential. You got guys, I think they were out of the top 20, everybody got above 125 mile an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And there are now, whatever it was, I've got the figures here somewhere, but there are now whatever amount of riders in the 130 club.
Yes.
So those are big talking points to be at. And if you can get into that 125 mile an hour club and then potentially into the 130 mile an hour, I mean, AJ's only 3 miles an hour off.
Yeah.
And he's in 130 mile an hour club. That is the top echelon of motorcycling. Davey Todd on the Ducati you spoke about, fastest the Ducati's ever been around the TT. No one's ever ridden a Ducati faster than him. He is now the record holder for Ducati. That alone is a huge talking point for Ducati. And do they bring that 959 back again? And maybe with a bit of factory tweaking. Do they phone Gigi and say, listen, what can we do? He has to look at it. There has to be a marketing opportunity for them. I mean, the last man to win on a Ducati was Hellwood.
Yeah.
So, come on, let's do something around that. Aprilia, Suzuki, Patton, Yamaha, all mixing it up in the twins. Great manufacturer battle. In fact, it was one of the biggest talking points in the media center, and I was sort of made noise about it, is they weren't realizing that there was a manufacturer battle happening as well as a rider battle.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, you had a Kawasaki, a Suzuki, a Honda, a BMW, and a Yamaha running in the top 10. That hasn't happened. It's been a dominant factor from Honda or BM or Yamaha. That's it. You didn't have everybody else playing around. Now they're all in there.
Yeah.
Do we see? Okay, we're not going to see anything from Suzuki or from Kawasaki's, although Kawasaki were there in a big way too. One of the things that I found out on the slide was, Big Boss of Kawasaki was there because they ran that Evo bike of theirs, that EV machine of theirs that they've just developed for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was only a lap, and people were going, "What the hell have we got this lap for when we should be getting the riders on track instead of riding this circuit around?" But they don't realize the potential that Mr. Kawasaki, who is not a motorsport fan, coming to TT to watch a hybrid bike go around the track means for Kawasaki Motorsport in the future.
Yeah, his product. Yeah, exactly.
We try to make a plan to get an interview or just a photo with him and AJ having been on that Z650 of TH Racing's, just to say, we got a South African rider here on a Kawasaki riding for a British team, and Mr. Kawasaki is in the house. Yeah, but of course there was all the politics around that and trying to get a South African and a South African magazine a chance to speak to Mr. Kawasaki was like, I can probably schedule an interview tomorrow morning with Jesus. With Kawasaki. I'm not shitting you.
No, trust me, I know all about that. Greg, it's been a great chat. It's been great getting the insight from you. I just absolutely love it. I just wish South Africa had the capability through MSA or through anyone just to have a representative at all these big things, at a TT.
So Rob, if I can, before we wrap up, you touched on the acronym there, and it's a bugbear for me at the moment. MSA put out 2 posts over the last 2 weeks about South African stars shining in the world of motorsport around the world. And yes, I take my hat off to everybody that does and deserves those accolades. We've got some great karters doing phenomenal stuff. We've got the Van der Linde boys representing at Lamar. We've got Shares, Stephen, Brad, Darren, Lockhoff, all doing phenomenal stuff. Yeah. We've got Van Skalkwyk, we've got Nicole. They even mentioned Jess, who's not a South African, a South African rider. Jessica Howden is not a South African rider, she's Zimbabwean. Okay?
Yes, yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from her. I think she's I've got a lot of time for her. We've done a lot. I actually raced against her in Zimbabwe. But not once, not one mention about AJ and what he did at TT. I actually went onto the post, and I don't know who's doing their social media at the moment. It's a new person, I think. I don't know who it is. They do a nice job, don't get me wrong. But let's find out the facts, guys. We're a South African rider on a South African team with a South African-built motorcycle that cost him an arm and a leg to compete in 7 races. He finished all 7. He went faster in every single one. He won silver replicas, which is not an easy thing to do at TT, and all under his own steam, under his own sponsorship, and not one peep out of the powers that be. It's scary, buddy.
What gets me with it, Greg, is on top of the riders and the athlete success is, so Greg, you're going to the TT, how can we support? And you can send us coverage. Rob, you are in the UK now and you're going to MotoGP. How can we support? How can we get coverage? I'm going to go to Donington World Superbikes. I'm going to do interviews with Jessica Howden and Nicole, covering them at their world. There's no mention of, so Motor Rider World must do all of this, and you must spend all your hard-earned money, and not, okay, Greg, here's X amount towards it, or that's, Greg, that's why I'm here and not there, unfortunately.
I look at it, and Rob, I'm really looking at this as a long-term goal of mine, and not a lot of people have ever heard me say this. I love what I do in terms of my motorsport career, and I've had a phenomenal one, and I've made a career out of it. And they always say, if you can do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's basically what I've done for the last 27 years. Absolutely. So yes, we had to buckle down with lockdown and all the other cuck that happened there. But the be all and end all is this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at the success, and I take a prime example of the success that you can make out of a journalistic career like you and I have got, our F1 guru, Dieter, phenomenal guy, does an amazing job when he does his journalistic work. Where is he now? He is the FIA president's #1 advisor.
Jeez.
So Dieter Renkman, hats off, brother. Well played. That's what we need to have. How awesome would it be to have some kind of influence at the FIM from a South African point of view, as opposed to just what MSA throw at them, which is not always the right figures and the right things that are saying.
No.
In terms of what Motor Rider World have done for me, how I feel, and I cannot thank you enough.
No,
We've come a long way down the road from what was originally, your initial start with George and what you did there, and then you moved on to your own, and then you moved on to Ride Fast, and then you moved on to Motor Rider World. That whole process, we've kind of gone in a parallel route.
Yeah.
Chopping and changing from journalistic on my side, and then some commentary on your side, and whatever it is. But I think when you look at what I had to deal with, what you deal with at MotoGP, and how difficult it is to get the ins. Once you've got those ins, I think it's another ball game. But it is so difficult to get those ins and get those contacts and get the context you need, not just the person who's going to say, yeah, you can do this, but then they say, no, you can't. Or McGuinness will be here at 10 o'clock, and you go there and you sit there and you look like a nana because you're sitting there for half an hour and no one arrives.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, that's what bugs me. I don't want to be the oak sitting in the back of the room, not being noticed. I want Motor Rider World to be phoned and said, listen, are you guys coming?
Yes.
Why not?
Yes, yeah.
Why not? Yeah. Why aren't you coming? Well, we don't have the budget. Well, then we're going to make plan to get you there because that's the kind of coverage you got. Rob, I'm going to put it into the report that I'm doing, and I've got like 50 pages I've got to get through tomorrow to get it to you by Thursday. But I know your hit rate on Motor Rider World has picked up phenomenally and probably astronomically compared to what it was before you went online.
Yeah.
The instantaneous gratification that people are looking for when it comes to the sport we cover and the content we create brings joy and happiness to people that love the sport that we love. And when I have the likes of you and Oakley and Casio and Universal and the guys that help me out with a little bit of sponsor, even Flocky in Knysna sending me a pittance to say the first 2 meals of your trip are on me.
Yes.
And it literally was the first 2 meals. That's the money he sent me. He said, I don't want you to go hungry. Here's some money towards it because of what I've given him in the past, what we've given him, the coverage you get,
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people that you go, well, they realize the sacrifice that you and I have had to make to get to where you are, to get to where I am. And I'm not the best in the world. I really am. We make mistakes. We say things that we're not supposed to. We maybe make the wrong comments every now and again. But you know what? The bottom line is the passion is there, and that's what we want to try and portray. So I don't want to be in a situation where I'm sitting in a press room as an A&, other.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
No.
Motorcycle News doesn't have that situation. Road Racing News doesn't have that situation. The Italian magazine that was there didn't have that. The guys from Goodwood Speed Festival didn't have that. They were treated like gods and like gold. They were given all the rights to do whatever they wanted to do. Why must it be any different to everybody else? I've come probably 10,000 miles more than those folks have come under my own steam with a bit of assistance from a few people. Yeah. And thanks to those guys for that assistance. But it's still my own money that I spent. It wasn't anybody else's.
That's not enough.
And people must realize £13.50 a day. You try and live on that in South Africa. It's a breeze. You can do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
Do it in the UK.
No,
not so easy.
No, you can't. No, listen, it's frustration that the passion's not, we can't take it further to where we want to take it, but at least we've had these opportunities. At least we can talk about it. We were there and we've covered it and we've had this chat. So there's a lot of positives to take out of it. And
Massive.
everything that you did and you sent to us, and the exclusive that we got, the coverage from AJ, those interviews that you did, talking to Darren Binder. And I just love that, you talk to Darren Binder, and all of a sudden, all the other media companies are now know Greg Moloney. Now they share Greg Moloney's posts, and now all of a sudden everyone
I
knows.
saw that.
Hashtag
I did see that.
hashtag voice of choice. All of a sudden now, because he's doing the right things or the things they want, now they're on the bandwagon. So, but that's just South African mentality, and unfortunately, it's never going to change. So we'll keep plugging away at it, as we always do. Send me that article. Sure. Nice TT special coming out in our next digital magazine, which is free for everyone to read and enjoy. Going to be written by Greg Moloney, who was there at the heart of it. So not some person that thinks they know what it is or copied and pasted a press release into Chat AI and asked it to rewrite. No. We're getting the real deal. So, Greg, thank you so much for everything that you always do for us, for this chat. Everyone's enjoyed it. Getting a lot of comments down here. You two are the dream team. Alex van der Berg, Daryl Holmes. Guys, that's typical NSA. A lot of people just saying, what a brilliant show. They love having us. Love talking. Always great to talk to you, Greg. And, we'll try and make it happen again for next year. I think if we start crowdfunding now, we can maybe make it happen. But I think it's a must, and it's something. Having AJ there is great, but having AJ there by himself, it's kind of not enough. Having you there this just amplified things. Having another South African there amplified things. It just adds substance to what we're doing. Every time I go to a MotoGP, I add. Every time I go now to Donington World Superbikes, and I'm going to talk to Jessica and Nicole. Where else are we going to get that content? Where else are we going to get the content you did from a South African point of view? Yeah, it's nice to see the Crash.nets and everyone else, but we want to see it and hear it from a South African flavor. We're going to keep plugging away at it. So to everyone, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for tuning into this.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, my bud, and we'll definitely catch up soon.
Yeah, 100%, Rob. And as I said, once again, massive thanks to be a part of the team. It's always an honor and privilege to represent your brand. I think it's certainly one of the best in the world, and we're going to just keep doing what we're doing. And as I said, I'm already putting plans in motion, hopefully to be there again next year. Whether AJ's there or not, he's not quite sure yet. Although I think he's going to probably push to be in the positive as opposed to not being there. But even so, if he's not there, I still want to be there, because this is a sport that I think is growing in popularity, and the reason why it's grown in such popularity is the live stream from TT Plus, the fact that SuperSport have taken on the package and are buying it from RTV. So people are realizing that TT is supposed to be reckoned with in the motorsport world. So to all the guys that were behind me, to my mom-in-law Angela, to Sammy and my family for sacrificing those 16 days I wasn't around, is a huge thing for me. But my bud, without you, I couldn't have done it. So I really appreciate the support, buddy. And whenever it comes to your brand, it's the only brand for me when it comes to journalism. So you'll never see me with anybody else other than Motorrad World. So guys, thank you so much for listening in. Rob, if I can, just if anybody wants to sort of send me a personal message that we didn't get to speak about, or you want any information, or you want to just ask a question. I know a lot of guys were sort of talking about, putting a tour together and putting something together. I'd love to. I said, but the problem I've got though is you guys must realize it's not going to be a cheap outing. Yeah, it's an expensive outing, and we need to do it within the next month, because otherwise you're not going to get there. The place I stayed at, I've managed to squeeze in. They literally put me into their dining room with a bunk bed, sort of an army style bed.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate to get it, because he told me straight, I don't have space. And every place I went to, no space. When I got out the car and ran across the road to the bus, and I said to him, I'll see you next year. He said, you won't. I'm full.
Jeez.
So I can't even do a rebooking of where I've just spent 16 days at over 20,000 Rand.
You can't get a ferry here. You've got to. We as Zero are looking at taking just like a couple of dealers and some fan, go ride across on some Zeros, get the ferry in there. And if we don't book it in the next literally couple of days, we're not going to get a ferry.
You're not going to get it. You won't.
So let's see. I would love that. Like you said, a nice TT special would be great with a bunch of. Someone said, "Yeah, where's it?" Willis Marshall. There were more South Africans at the TT than Manx people.
TH Racing in the house, baby. Thanks, Willis, and thanks for taking me in under your belt as well and giving me a chance to be part of that team. That's a team, Rob. It's a really well run, well-oiled machine that puts those motorcycles onto the track that AJ got a chance to race on at Northwest as well as at the TT. Willis and his team and the entire TH boys and girls were spectacular. And yeah, I think if I can do more with them, I'd love to. Whether it's with AJ or not, I mean, if I'm going to be at the TT, it's the reason I went down to Burrows. The first person that I ever did work with was with John Burrows, and I could not go down there and have a chat to at least him. And then, of course, I got a chance of one man we didn't mention, which I'll get it in the report, Dom Herbertson.
Yes,
What a find! What a find there from Burrows Racing. Well done. But I'll talk about him in the article, so check that out. But as I said, if anybody that's here wants to catch up, go onto my page. You've got my WhatsApp on there as well. Send me a WhatsApp. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If I don't get back to you tonight, I'll get back to you during the day. And I promise you, I do get back to everybody as much as possible. So yeah, Rob, once again, massive thanks. Great effort. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to try and fly the flag higher as much as I can. And yeah, let's do this again next year, hopefully.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. And next week, Tuesday night, I'm going to try and organize the live with AJ to chat about his TT and stuff. Because then from Wednesday onwards, I'm at ABR Festival, so I'm pretty much man down. And then the following week is talking MotoGP. So stay tuned to Motor Rider World's platform. Stay tuned to Greg Moloney and the Voice of Choice platforms, and we'll just keep you as entertained as we possibly can. Thank you and goodbye.